Alright, I'll hit record and we'll finally finish this. Okay, I'm gonna try and be as quiet as I can because I don't know if my roommate is sleeping or out or what. So I'm just gonna go under the assumption that he is sleeping. I mean, it is like 2 in the morning. So, Verdant went. I know, these parts have been all over the place, but that's why they're separate videos. Videos that are linked. So Verdant went. I've already mentioned how I like the scene. It like the scenes in White Clouds. It's worthy of note that this is my favorite route, Verdant Wind, which is funny because I have actually admitted to being an Edelgard simp before, but well, I am, and I do despise how she is treated in the narrative, which is funny considering I'm at the time of this recording of this part's recording. I am basically 3 sessions into uh, Scarlet Blaze, which because I paid tribute um, to Billy Kometz right at the beginning of that VOD. Yeah, yeah, it was it felt appropriate to pick Scarlet Blaze, which is funny because I don't really use Ferdinand in Scarlet Blaze, but let's not get into that. Okay. I honored him by leading his country to victory, and he got some good moments. You arrested my father, Edelgard. What the fuck? So, spoilers for Three Hopes. Duke Ire gets arrested in there too. Anyways, for the record, I have not gone through Azure Gleam or Golden Warfare at the time of this video. Mostly because I have not actually gotten that far. I am only on chapter 5 or 6, I forget which, of Scarlet Blaze, so there you go. There's some time frame of these parts. But why is it that Verdant Wind succeeds, whereas Silver Snow fails? The Golden Deer. I'm not even going to beat around the bush. I'm just going to point blank say it. The Golden Deer is why. The Golden Deer house was a house that, if you asked me my opinion on each individual member, there would be. It would be all over the place. I like Claude. Lawrence is annoying. I mean, Leone is acceptable in in small doses. Marianne's self-loathing hits a little too close to home for me to like her all that much. She definitely deserves better than she gets, but again, the problem is that her self-loathing aggravates me. Excuse me, sorry. Her self-loathing just drives me up a wall. So yeah, not a fan. Then, then, then in, so Marianne, you know, Lysithea is fine except for when she's being treated like a child, in which case she gets irritating. Raphael, I have almost no opinion on, and Ignatz, I have almost no opinion on, and Lawrence's shifts from being somebody I want to frickin' slug to, okay, Lawrence, buddy, just get off my screen, please. So, I got nothing, guys. I've got absolutely fuck all. The problem is that the Golden Deer by themselves are not that great of characters, in my opinion. But you take them as a whole, and it's like, oh, they actually work, right? It's one of those things where I'm not a big fan of them outside of the narrative, and yet in the narrative, for Verdant Wind anyway, in the narrative, I actually like them. But everywhere else, I'm just like, either indifferent or I want them off the screen, right? With the exception of Claude, but that's just because Claude is Claude. And Hilda is in the same boat as Leone. Small chunks. Small chunks. So. So, yeah. My first two notes are about reuniting with Claude and the Golden Deer, which is actually why I mentioned the Golden Deer first. The reunion with Claude got two positives from me. Why? Because it was beautiful. Fit with Claude's character. Hey, you overslept, Teach. And then immediately turning and being like, you smell that? It smells like a new dawn for Fodlan. Right? Because because that's Claude in a nutshell. He's got ambitions, and yeah, he absolutely. Fodlan does need to be put on a new approach, and Claude understands that, which is why I don't think it's impossible for Edelgard to go down a less murder the church route, right? It is possible, but it needs the right circumstance, the right characters, and the right, well, everything. It is in my blunt opinion that if Claude had managed to he never tried, of course, because duh. But if he had actually tried to woo Edelgard and had succeeded in that, I don't think Edelgard would have went to war with Fodlan. Go ahead, go ahead, flame me, hate me, whatever. But I honestly do. That's the way I honestly feel, and it's because of Claude's very nature. He doesn't take the status quo as writ, especially when the status quo is bullshit. And let's be blunt with ourselves here. The status quo in Fodlan is bullshit. Beyond bullshit. And all of that, if I should turn my monitor off. And all of that sits on Rhea's shoulders. There's no hand waving this. It's all on Rhea's shoulders. Right? I mean, yeah, he's willing to help her out if she's still alive, but let's face facts here. She is still responsible for Fodlan's state. And, it's something that I think needs to be acknowledged. I love the Golden Deer. I think they have the best reunion interactions. Actions, not much to say. So then they rope in the knights into helping them out as they start to move against the Empire because, similar ideals, but again, Claude doesn't believe that bloodshed is required. Neither do I, right? So then he mentions the five great lords of the Alliance and how they were going to need to have the Alliance stand united against the Empire. Now, this is a point I like because the kingdom at this point in all of the routes is basically in shambles, with the exception of Crimson Flower, and even then you can argue they are mostly in shambles. So, yeah. So, it basically plays out very similar to Silver Snow. The Crest of Flames flag, which actually makes more sense for Claude to do that than Sethith, IMO, because Claude has a lot of respect for Byleth. So why not have the flag that he's flying be the Crest of Flames? It's Teach's crest, right? And then most of the same story beats happen, which has been a complaint I've had consistently across all the routes. This is probably going to be another relatively short one. A short one, by the way, which is funny because that means Asher Moon was actually the longest, which is hilarious to me. But let's not get into that. The biggest then we get to Gronder, and that's when they find out that Dimitri is still alive. By the way, the game doesn't. I don't like that the game tries to fool you that it might not be Dimitri. No, it's blatant who it is. It's Dimitri, for God's sakes. Also, having the Golden Deer students who does not be recruited is absolute bullcrap because Dimitri is so far into bore mode at this point that he literally either doesn't acknowledge his friends' deaths or says a single word. Uh, which think he only says. I think he only says Felix. It says speaks Felix's name, Mercedes's name. No, not Mercedes. Sorry, no, not Mercedes's name. I think he says Sylvain, Felix, and Ingrid. Either that or he. No, I don't think he even says Sylvain's. And everyone, it's basically just Felix and Ingrid. I'm pretty sure. And for everybody else, it's just a ellipses. He just scoffs at it. The only exception to that being Dedu, in which case he literally point blank tells Dedu to retreat because he must live. I mean, interpret that however you want. And I mean, technically, from my perspective, we're still in Pride Month, so. Oh, sure, Dimitri is gay for Dedu. Which actually would make so much sense. It's not even funny, actually, because Dedu has been the one to pull him the farthest out of insanity, the farthest is towards sanity, other than Byleth. Oh, and Byleth can be male, by the way, and still have the same impact. So maybe Dimitri's bi. I don't know. I don't know. I leave that up to the LGBT community to project however they see fit. Cisgender dude right here, so I have no say in that. Regardless, though, I will say this much. Narratively, it would fit, regardless. The only characters that... Anyways, random thoughts about characters who in my incredibly awful opinion, would would or would not narratively fit on the LGBT spectrum aside. Let's discuss the biggest flaw Verdant Wind has. And I know people are going to hate me. It's Hilda describing that Dimitri was killed off screen. I know. I know. I know. A lot of people like that scene. And it does pain me that I have to be that asshole, But I have to call it like I see it. And the way I see it is what I have is a major character dying off screen for no other reason than the plot demands he die. He can't even die fighting frickin' Edelgard. No, he has to die. He has to die to random jackasses off screen. At least in Silver Snow, the idea was that it was such a devastating battle that all three sides were either forced to retreat and or were killed, But no, we have to have if Hubert, we have to have Dimitri die there. So then we get Lysithea describing the experiments of Twisted, and this is where I go into this, because I didn't, during Crimson Flower, I didn't talk about the experimentations that happened to Edelgard. Lysithea mentions that she's one of the ones that gets experimented on. And it is strongly hinted through Lysithea and Edelgard's supports in Crimson Flower that that they both were experimented on by the same people. Twisted, aka those who slither in the dark. That's why Edelgard has the Christoceros and an artificial Crystal Flames. It's and it mentions that that their lifespans are cut short. In the in the epilogue, if Edelgard and Lysithea have their epilogue together, an attack happens, and then they through that, and then they discover a way to stop their shortened lifespan problem, which is cool. We don't know what that is because the epilogue is just, a little blurb saying what happened after the war, but yeah, no, in my storyline, yeah, the same bloody thing happens. But I digress. So then, oh, come on, buddy. Come on, don't do this. Let me get through this. This is the last one. This is the last three houses video. Let me get through this. Now, now this brings up a good point, and this is something that I've been bitching about, that I bitched about constantly on stream. Hildegard is a victim. And no, not that I'm a victim kind of way. No, 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 no. She is a victim. She just won't let herself be a victim or a damsel in distress or whatever. The thing is I think if you aimed her ambition in a different direction and showed her that it was possible to politically push Rhea, which, yeah, I know it would take some doing, but again, in my setting, it absolutely is possible because, yeah, I point out that you have allowed fucking scheming jackasses to get the better of you. The fact of the matter is you basically had, well, technically four, no, depending on how you score it, like 4 or 5 Ava Talus's rats in Garrick Mach as part of the Officers' Academy, no less. The four, of course, being Edelgard, Hubert, Yuritsa, and Monica. And actually, no, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. A fifth one, if you count Solon, right? Never mind the fact that Arundel could come and go from Garrick Mach as much as he bloody well pleased, and spoilers, he's Talus. So, yeah. You know, yes, Edelgard's got to get some sense knocked into her, but I still think it's possible. And still have it fit within her character. But I digress. So then Claude once again reiterates his trust for Byleth. And then he has Nadir and the Elmiran army show up. This is where it's basically made blatantly clear that Claude has ties to Elmira. And it's great stuff. And I love how the Alliance soldiers are just like, yeah, we're with this, alright, yeah! You know? Also, Judith is surprised by this. And both the ships, Judith and Nadir. Judith, the Queen of Elmira. In a way that just that just fits, in my opinion. So then we defeat Edelgard. She won't stand down because she's an idiot. Then we get Hubert's letter. Then we go after those who slither in the dark. Or can beat them down. And then this is when we confront Rhea. Because this is where we start to find out things. The reason Garrick Mach cannot be targeted by the Javelins of Light is because Garrick Mach literally is protected by anti-javelin whatsits. Convenient, admittedly, but whatever. whatever. And it's those javelins that actually caused the Valley of Torment to look like it is. Yeah, I can believe it. Magic Missile is supposed to be one of the most powerful D&D spells, after all. So then we rescued Rhea, and this is where we start to learn some stuff out. That we learn that Saros is the only true daughter of Sothis. Everyone else is just kind of the Nabatean people. The creststones and the relics are effectively the hearts and bodies of the children of the goddess, basically. I still say the creststones are a dumb AF plot point that shouldn't have been included, but whatever. And then Rhea talks about her plan and to effectively resurrect Sothis. Because she essentially wanted Byleth to become Sothis. That was her big plan. But instead, Sothis granted power and vanished, and that was the problem. I want to briefly talk about the Saints. I haven't really had any other opportunities to really bring them up. But I will admit, I like the idea that I like the Saints, right? And we all know what the Nabateans. I like the Nabateans. Yes. But they do seem to be just your typical, we're going to stay out of mankind's affairs kind of deities, There's, I want to say, Indek is the movable, frick, I forget which one's which. Indek I know is the immovable, I want to say Macule is the one is the wind caller. Saros is, of course, Rhea, the Immaculate One, and then Sedith is Keyhole, and Flane is Sethlene. Yeah, the four great saints. Saints. Hey, whoops, bumped the desk. Yeah, the four great saints. Saints other than Saros. So there's Saros, there's Indek, there's Macule, Keyhole, and Sethlene. It's actually funny if you actually get into combat with the wind caller the wind caller keeps trying to call the flame Sethlene, which is your only other hint other than just going and doing the getting the A support with between Flane and Sedith. Because he keeps trying to call her Sethlene, and Flane is like, "Shush, Uncle! Shut up, Uncle! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Do not call me Sethlene." It's actually kind of a fun moment. Admittedly, if you have Sedith going in attack, then it's basically both Indek and Macule are just like, yeah, we're not helping. We refuse. Go away. And Sedith is just like, yeah, I figured you'd say that, but I had to ask, And then finally, the final thing we got to talk about is Nemesis himself. Okay. First and foremost, I wish Nemesis had been the final boss of every route. There's no reason for Rhea to be the final boss of any of the routes, my opinion. And trust me, going after Tal, and that's the other thing too. I have a feeling that Crimson Flower was the route where they ran out of time and budget. I really do, because I feel like killing Rhea should have been like almost the end, because then Edelgard goes after Talus. Now listen, we head to Shambhala, we kick his ass. Then we deal with, and then we deal with Nemesis, and there you go. I still say Edelgard should have been convertible, but I just throw up my hands at this point. I don't know if Three Hopes has a fourth route, like I said, but I suppose we will see. The one thing I will say, though is I still say Verdant Wind is the best route, mostly because it has a lot of great scenes and no major negatives. It's actually what got it so high up, right? Because only like 10, I think like 10 potential points could actually, you know, be gained. Well, I guess technically up to 30 because each support conversation could get up to 3 positives, but you get my point. But that's all I have. Fire Emblem Three Houses, ladies and gentlemen. A very good but very exhausting game to not only go through, but to discuss. I'm sorry that these videos haven't exactly been as in-depth as some of my other videos, but again, I've said almost all of that I have said on the stream. All of my issues, the narrative's hate boner for Edelgard, which is hilarious because the Three Hopes' narrative doesn't seem to nearly have as much of a hate boner for Edelgard. It shows Edelgard as an opportunist, but that's about it. Like, yeah, she's still, I guess minor spoilers for Three Hopes. She still goes to war. She still does all this other shit. And yet, I feel like it's better presented and better done than in Three Houses. Because in Three Houses, Edelgard is painted as way too much of an idiot for way too much of the game. And that's a problem, in my opinion. What's funny is, I will say this. This is definitely a game where I don't like discussing the what is actually on screen, but I love the little what ifs that you could come up with, right? What if Edelgard listened to reason? What if she could sever her ties with those who slithered in the dark early? What if she could do the coup that would turn her into the Emperor of Drescia early? Shit like that. Some of those are answered in Three Hopes, which I love. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this ridiculously long look at Three Houses. Three Houses is a game I strongly recommend, and do me a favor and absolutely play all 4 of the routes. You don't have to do so like right off the bat because that's ridiculous, but you can and should absolutely play all of the routes. Because Fire Emblem Three Houses is all 4 of the routes, and the DLC. There's a lot of great characters, there's a lot of great moments, but I have to admit, while I don't care for the narrative, I do adore the gameplay and the characters that inhabit Fodland. And you better believe that I have ideas for my fanfictions that involve these characters. Because of course there is. Because of course I have plans. I always have plans. Why do you think I get along with Claude and Yuri so well? But that is really it for me. I figured this would be shorter, and it was. This is literally the shortest part of this. I hope you have enjoyed this marathon of everything as I go and check the time frames. So gameplay was about an hour and 10, hour and a half for White Clouds, about an hour for And for Azure Moon, 45 minutes for Silver Snow and Crimson Flower, and about a half an hour for this one. So in total, 240. Yeah, 2 hours 40 minutes, 3 hours 40 minutes. It's so yeah, it's been probably about 5 or 6 hours of your time. Regardless of all that, I hope you have enjoyed my thoughts, and I will see you guys hopefully in the next video, where I will be discussing my personal favorite Fire Emblem, and the score even backed it up, weirdly enough. Sacred Stones. I don't know how long I'll be talking about that one, but I hope you will join me for that delightfully awesome GBA game. Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one, hun. And if you're wondering why Verdant Wind gets to overwrite me being an Edelgard simp, well, I only have one thing to say to that. That's the golden deer for you. Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one.
Reach for my hand, I'll soar away into the dawn. Oh, I wish I could stay here in cherished halls, in peaceful days. I fear the edge of dawn, knowing time betrays. Shines, the world dines, a smile on each face. As joy surrounds, comfort abounds, and I can feel I'm breaking free. And for a moment lost in time, I am finally me. Yet still I, behind this mask that I have become. From. Open the door and walk away. Never give in to the call of yesterday.